No one admits it, but everyone feels it. The subtle humiliation of chasing after someone who doesn't even respect you. And worse, she loves it. She loves knowing she can do this to you. That your time, your attention, your validation are there, ready to be discarded with a simple maybe. We live in an era where the game of attraction has been distorted, not by the perversity of women or the weakness of men, but by a system of invisible social incentives, where male vulnerability is exploited, rewarded with emotional crumbs, and devalued the next second. What should be an act of connection, demonstrating interest, investing emotionally, showing availability, has become synonymous with weakness, with submission. And that's where the silent dilemma of most men lies: how to connect without kneeling. For centuries, the figure of the hunter man has been romanticized. He fights, pursues, conquers. But in today's world, where female validation is social capital, where stories and likes are currencies of power, the man who pursues quickly transforms into just another fan. And fans are not respected. Fans are consumed, discarded, forgotten. The French philosopher Jean Baudrillard said that we live in an age of simulations, where image replaces reality, where the promise of love is more important than love itself. And that's what we see in the modern game of seduction. Women want the man who makes them feel desired, but despise the man who demonstrates that desire in an obvious way. She wants the spectacle of conquest, not the domesticated conqueror. And the most perverse thing is that this dynamic is not always conscious. Many women genuinely believe they want an attentive, present, available man. But instinct tells a different story. The female instinct is sharp. It sniffs out power, scarcity, direction. And when a man diverts his focus from his mission to make a woman the center of his existence, he sends a brutal biological signal. You are more valuable than my own life. To some, this sounds like romance. To her, it sounds like despair. It is at this point that respect dissolves. Not because she is cruel, but because she is programmed to test the limits of your firmness, your worth, your conviction. And if each test finds in you a concession, an okay, it's fine as long as you like me, then you cease to be a man. You become a mirror of her desires. And there is nothing more boring than falling in love with your own reflection. This video is about that, about the fine line between showing interest and begging for attention, about the paradoxes of the female mind that no one explains to you, and about the man who, by stopping the chase, begins to attract. She wants it, but she doesn't admire it, and that's the invisible abyss that swallows the self-esteem of thousands of men every day. The man believes that the more interest he shows, the more she will perceive his value, the more special, valued, and desired she will feel. And that's true. She feels all of that. But ironically, at the same time that she feels desired, she loses desire. Because female desire doesn't feed solely on attention, it feeds on doubt, challenge, and tension. And that's exactly why the man who offers too much certainty kills the game before it even begins. The problem is that this dynamic is contradictory and brutal. Because a woman may love the chase game, but she doesn't admire the predictable player. And that confuses the mind of any rational man. How can someone desire to be pursued but despise the pursuer? How can someone demand attention but lose respect for the one who offers it unconditionally? The answer is simple. What she wants activates her ego. What she admires activates her instinct. And these two worlds rarely speak the same language. The female ego wants to feel unique. It wants male validation as a trophy. But instinct wants power. It wants a man who isn't so easily swayed by smiles or curves. A man who doesn't give everything away for fear of losing, but who knows that even if he loses a woman, he never loses himself. That's the man she respects. That's the man she pursues, even without understanding why. Most men confuse affection with investment. They think that the more they offer, the more they will receive. And here's the fatal mistake. When investment comes before selection, you're offering yourself before being chosen. That's not power. That's strategic submission disguised as romanticism. And the more a man surrenders to this logic, the more he transforms into what she calls, with a smirk, too nice. And it's important to understand that this rejection isn't rational. It's not a logical choice on the woman's part. It's a mechanism for preserving desire, because desire demands tension. The man who puts her on a pedestal, who emotionally kneels before being invited in, destroys that tension. He offers love without requirements, without screening, without challenge. And that, in the language of desire, sounds like, "You have nothing left to offer me that I don't control." Robert Greene, in The Art of Seduction, describes it with surgical precision. The seducer never gives himself completely. He maintains a mystery, a distance, a thin veil of uncertainty that compels the other to keep playing. That's what keeps him valuable. That's what makes him irresistible. The man who chases after her loses that invisible layer. He becomes predictable, and predictability is the greatest poison for desire. Look at the culture. The archetypes most admired by women in series, films, and novels are not the available men. They are the focused, mysterious, slightly inaccessible men. James Bond, Don Draper, Thomas Shelby. They are not examples of morality. They are examples of emotional power. They don't chase, they attract. And the fact that they are selective, cold, or even emotionally unavailable is what makes them fascinating. Because they don't offer easy validation, they make the woman doubt herself. And in that process, she begins to fight for their attention. And here's the key. Every time you chase, you reverse the game. You say, "I am the prize, but I'm willing to sell myself at a discount." And she feels it. She perceives it. Even without words, your behavior communicates. "I need you more than you need me." And that unspoken phrase is the emotional equivalent of kneeling before someone who doesn't even know if they want to stay. It's important to understand that female respect stems from perceived scarcity. A man who has many options, who has a greater purpose, who has a life that doesn't revolve around a woman, that man is rare. And what is rare is automatically valuable. What is valuable is desired. And what is desired, if respected, doesn't need to chase after. The modern woman, even unconsciously, has access to validation at levels no previous generation has had. Hundreds of messages, likes, DMs. This creates an effective inflation. And the only way to stand out in this saturated environment is not to join the queue, but to get out of it. It's to show that your attention is a scarce resource that needs to be earned. Because respect is born from filtering, not from giving. She respects the man who isn't begging for her presence. She desires the man whose absence weighs more than the presence of all the others. But be careful. This isn't about playing cold or manipulative games. It's about having a life so aligned, so full of purpose, that she wonders how she can be a part of it. The mistake of simples isn't in loving. It's in loving someone more than they love themselves. In placing a woman on a throne she knows she doesn't deserve. In projecting onto her a value she hasn't yet demonstrated. That's not romance. That's strategic neediness. And she feels it. And when she feels it, respect evaporates. Because the man who constantly needs to prove his worth becomes emotionally dependent. And dependence is never attractive. What attracts is freedom. What attracts is the man who, even when desiring something, doesn't bend. Who maintains his center, his focus, his mission. Who doesn't lose his direction because of a curve in his body or a change in his mood. And here arises the greatest irony of all. By stopping the chase, the man doesn't become cold. He becomes selective. And this selectivity is interpreted as power. It's interpreted as self-respect. It's interpreted as value. And that's where the game changes. Because the man she admires doesn't need to shout his presence. He is felt. He is remembered. He is pursued. That's why many men live a cruel reality. The more they try to please, the less respect they receive. Because respect isn't bought with gestures. It's earned with posture, with boundaries, with direction, and above all, with the ability to say no, even when you want to say yes. Deep down, every woman knows that the man who bows down too much for her would bow down for any other woman. And that destroys the illusion of exclusivity. And without that illusion, there is no admiration. Because what she seeks is not a man who idolizes her. It's a man who inspires her, who challenges her, who makes her feel that even though she is desired, she needs to strive to deserve it. She tells you no, but she's still there, present, responding, flirting, posting stories that seem like indirect messages, reappearing after days of silence. You wonder, if she's not interested, why is she still playing games? But what you don't realize is that this no isn't definitive. It's a test, an invisible test that most men fail. Because they don't understand the hidden language behind female rejection. They don't realize that often her no doesn't mean disinterest. It means, let's see if you're strong enough not to beg. There's a part of female desire that's only activated when she finds a man who frustrates her. And here's the most dangerous point. Frustration is an aphrodisiac. But not just any frustration, the kind that comes from a man who doesn't give in, who doesn't bend, who doesn't respond to the emotional test with desperate affection. And that's why she tests you. Not to play with your feelings, but to measure your strength. Because deep down, a woman knows that a man who melts at the first no isn't the kind of man she would respect when she truly needs firmness. These tests aren't planned. They're instinctive. They're part of an age-old screening system that's in the female code. And they arise subtly. A cold response, a deliberate delay, a veiled provocation. And what she wants to see is simple. Will you lose control? Will you despair? Will you try to convince her? Or will you maintain your composure like a man who has other options, other paths, other horizons? This is where many fail. Because they confuse insistence with persistence. They think they need to prove something, to win the no with more effort, more romanticism, more validation. And they don't realize that the more they try to turn the tables, the more they lose ground. Because she's already understood. If you need to prove yourself so much, it's because deep down you don't believe you have real value. And whoever doesn't believe in their own worth will never be respected. Not by her, nor by anyone else. Evolutionary psychologist David Buss has demonstrated that female sexual selection has always been based on sophisticated value filters. Women have always been programmed to test, to select, to evaluate a man's emotional resilience. Because an emotionally fragile man represents a risk. He crumbles under pressure. He changes his identity for acceptance. He becomes dependent. And this, to the female instinct, sounds like a future threat. She doesn't trust a man who can't stand firm in the face of a no. Therefore, the invisible test isn't about you gaining her approval. It's about her perceiving whether you've already approved of yourself, whether you have your own validation or desperately need hers. When she senses that you're comfortable with the possibility of losing her, something inside her reconfigures itself. The dynamic changes. She begins to wonder, what does he see in himself that makes him not beg for my attention? And this question is powerful, because it turns the internal game around. The woman who once tested now seeks approval, and the man who once pursued now observes. And from there, everything changes. Because genuine attraction doesn't stem from persistence, it stems from doubt. From that space where she's not sure if she has you, where she needs to position herself, where she needs to step down from the pedestal and play too. The author and seduction coach Eric Weber said, "A woman desires the man she's not sure she can have." And this uncertainty is built through her emotional stability, her ability not to react, not to fall into the drama, to remain calm even when everything around her screams for approval. But this requires inner strength. And inner strength comes from a place few men know, the place of real abundance. The certainty that you don't need any woman to feel valuable. The clarity that your path doesn't change because of a rejection. The confidence that if she tests you with a no, you won't bend, you'll observe. You'll step back. Let her feel the emptiness of your absence and realize that maybe she played too hard with someone who wasn't playing a game. And this absence is fundamental, because she doesn't respect the man who remains present even when he's undervalued. This shows neediness. It shows that your attention is cheap, that a little beauty is enough for you to submit. But when you disappear, when you make it clear that your time is precious, that you're not available for games, she feels it. And this absence weighs heavily, because it reveals something she didn't expect, that you don't need her. Most men believe that conquering a woman requires effort, but excessive effort communicates scarcity, and scarcity is desperation. A woman respects the man who observes, who selects, who knows his own worth, and who is willing to leave. Because only those who are willing to leave are truly free. And freedom, for a woman, is the ultimate sign of power. Because a free man is unpredictable. He cannot be controlled, he doesn't dance to the music, he sets his own limits. And the woman who sees a man like that doesn't play games with him, she tries to win him over. And that's where true respect is born. The philosopher Kierkegaard said that the highest proof of freedom is the ability to say no to immediate desire. And that's exactly what a centered man does. He desires, but doesn't surrender. He feels, but doesn't sell himself. He may want, but doesn't need. And this distance between wanting and needing is what defines power. Because the man who needs a woman to feel complete isn't a man. He's an emotionally dependent man disguised as a romantic. And here's the painful truth. The first no you hear from a woman isn't meant to push you away. It's meant to observe you. It's meant to see if you're just another one who will beg, or if you'll smile, turn your back, and continue your life with the same lightness and direction. If you react with desperation, with a series of messages with requests for explanations, you're out. But if you react naturally, if you respect her no without losing your essence, without trying to convince her, she starts to wonder, did I make a mistake? Did I lose someone valuable? And when that doubt creeps in, the game reverses. Because now she's the one wondering. She's the one who starts chasing. Because you showed something rare, self-control. And self-control is the most seductive asset a man can possess. Because it tells a woman, I am a man, and not an emotional toy. That's why you should never chase after someone who tests you with disdain. But you should understand the test when it appears. You should know that no can actually be a proof to me that you are different. And the best proof is not to insist. It's to remain unwavering. It's to leave the scene with elegance. It's to let the silence work for you. There's a type of man who doesn't need to speak loudly. He doesn't need to prove anything. He doesn't need to chase after anyone. His mere presence transforms the atmosphere because he carries something others don't have. Direction. He knows where he's going, he has a mission, and it's precisely this focus that makes him magnetic. In the world of modern seduction, where masculine value is constantly diluted by excessive validation and neediness, the focused man has become a rarity. And like everything rare, he has become desirable, not for his looks, not for his money, but for what he conveys without needing to say it. He is a man of purpose. And purpose, unlike desire, doesn't bend. While others are busy trying to be funny, interesting, agreeable, he is busy building something bigger than himself, and that's why he attracts. Because women sense that he's not emotionally available to just anyone. He's too busy living, growing, winning. And along the way, maybe, just maybe, he'll allow someone to share the journey, but he doesn't stop for anyone. And this absence of desperation is irresistible. This is the true paradox. The man who needs the least is the one who receives the most. The man who chases the least is the one who is followed the most. The man who doesn't force connections is the one who provokes them the most. Because his value is not in the opinion of others, but in the consistency between what he says and what he does. He is living proof that the greatest aphrodisiac is self-control. The modern woman, surrounded by needy men, has learned to identify the desperate one by his scent. He texts too much, agrees too much, praises too much. And deep down, she knows, this man is not in love with her. He is in love with the idea of finally being accepted. He doesn't see her as she is. He sees a projection, a trophy, an escape. And that is the difference between the man who desires and the man who needs. The first seduces, the second repels. The focused man is the opposite. He is not trying to escape his own life. He is immersed in it. He's not looking for a woman to fill his voids, but to overflow with them. And that changes everything. Because he's not reactive, he's selective. He doesn't respond to emotional games. He sets the rules. And that's why she respects him. Because he's not there out of neediness. He's there by choice. This man understands that time is his most valuable asset, and that giving time to someone who shows no interest is like throwing gold down the drain. He doesn't beg for attention. He observes, he filters, he disappears when he feels disrespected, and he doesn't come back. Because he knows there's no woman so beautiful that she's worth losing his own dignity. This attitude isn't coldness, it's self-love, it's emotional intelligence. It's the awareness that if you don't prioritize yourself, no one else will. And that respect doesn't come from words, it comes from actions, from boundaries, from silence, from focus. The focus, in fact, is the new seduction. Because a man who is focused is perceived as rare. He's not lost among notifications and needs, he's solving problems. He's going to the gym, learning, undertaking, evolving. He doesn't live to receive messages, he lives to build a life worth recording. And on that path, he attracts, because his life speaks louder than any pickup line. A woman may even be interested in the man who pursues her, but she surrenders to the man who inspires her, the one whose absence bothers her, the one whose presence is a rare choice. And that choice is worth more than any gift, any compliment, any promise. Franz Kafka said, "You don't need to leave the house. Sit at your desk and listen. Don't even listen, just wait. Don't even wait. Remain in total silence and solitude. The world will offer you the chance to be unmasked. It cannot help but do so." This applies to seduction. When you stop chasing and start building something real, the world and women inevitably sense it, and they approach. But beware. Don't confuse disinterest with arrogance. A truly focused man isn't rude, he's kind, but he's not overly accessible. He doesn't apologize for being busy. He doesn't interrupt your journey with vague promises. He's cordial, but relentless. And this combination, kindness and firmness, is devastating to a woman's ego. Because she feels, this man sees me, but doesn't idolize me. He likes me, but doesn't depend on me. He notices me, but doesn't pursue me. And it's in this space that curiosity is born. And from curiosity, desire is born. Deep down, every woman knows the man she truly wants isn't the one she begs for. It's the one she doesn't need. It's the one who, even being within reach, carries an aura of inaccessibility because his mind is elsewhere. Because his soul is too occupied with something greater, and therefore she wants to be a part of it, not to be the center of attention, but to be accepted. The truth no one dared tell you is here. You don't need to be more handsome, taller, or richer. You just need to be the man she feels, not the one who begs to be noticed. In the Forbidden Manual, we reveal the hidden code of attraction. Desire isn't born from effort. It's activated in 60 seconds, by a specific behavior, by a silent energy, by a signal few men know how to emit. Everything you've learned so far about chasing, pleasing, insisting, was designed to keep you weak, predictable, domesticated. But now, you have access to the Forbidden Manual. And with it, you understand that true power isn't in conquering, but in making her feel that losing you would be a mistake she can't correct. Stop begging for attention. Start being remembered. Be the man who imposes silence, who activates curiosity, who dominates the game without moving a piece. Because desire isn't begged for. It's unleashed. And if you haven't yet heard the Forbidden Manual, you're one play away from changing everything.